Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Quick Learning with Seema. Today we'll learn about Earth structure. Earth is made up of concentric rings. It is made up of rings like this, as you can see, the outer ring, then the inner ring and the innermost ring, right? So this is called concentric ring, like this one, innermost, then the inner ring, then the outermost. So this is the concentric rings. So earth is also made up of concentric rings. The outer layer of the earth crust is called the lithosphere. As you can see, so this is lithosphere. So this is the outer layer and this is called the crust or the lithosphere. And then the part of the earth crust which is immersed under oceans and seas, वो earth का part जो कि ocean और seas के अंदर immersed रहता है वो कहलाता है hydrosphere. और the earth is enveloped, the entire earth is enveloped by a blanket of gases. So the earth is surrounded by blanket of gases, oxygen, nitrogen, water vapors, carbon dioxide, right? So these gases are present, they are enveloping, they are forming a blanket around the earth, and then it is called the atmosphere. The innermost part of the earth is called the core, and outside the core is the mantle. So earth is divided into three parts, or you can say the inner composition or the internal composition of the earth is into three layers. Core, you can see this is the core. Mantle, outside the core is the mantle, and then the crust or the lithosphere. As you can see in the diagram, this is the crust or the lithosphere. So it is having, the earth is having three layers: core, mantle and the lithosphere. Now we'll learn some important characteristics, or you can say features, of all the three layers. Core is lying at the center of the earth, right? So core is at the center of the earth. It is the densest part of the earth. It is very dense, or you can say densest as compared to the mantle and crust. Now this core is divided into two parts, the outer core and the inner core. You can see from the diagram, this is the inner core and the outer core, right? So this is the core, and core is divided into the inner core and the outer core. This core is composed of iron and nickel, and this presence of iron and nickel is responsible for the earth magnetism. You all must be familiar with the word magnetism, that is the attraction at the poles, right? So what is magnetism? It is the property of attraction. Like poles or like charges, they repel, and unlike or the opposite charges, they attract. So this is magnetism. So the presence of iron and nickel is responsible for earth magnetism. Magnetic field is oriented towards north and the south poles. This is what I said earlier, right? Now next layer is the mantle. This is the mid layer, right? This is the mid layer of the earth, which is called the mantle, and it lies between the crust and the core. So as you can see in the diagram, it is between this part is between the mantle is between the crust and the core. So this is mantle, this is between the crust and the core. It is divided into two upper mantle. As you can see, this is the lower mantle and this is the upper mantle. upper mantle जो है वो cooler है और it is made up of solid rocks. Lower mantle, it is hotter. Upper mantle is cooler and lower mantle is hotter and denser, and it is solid due to the high pressure. So the upper mantle is made up of solid rocks, it is cooler, but the lower mantle is hotter and denser and it is solid due to the high pressure. Next is the crust or the lithosphere. This is made up of solid rocks, 1% of the earth mass, and contains all known life. So this crust constitute 1% of the earth mass, and all the known lives, you can say the vegetations, the living things, they are all present out here. Relatively thin layer of rocks. So यहाँ पर जो rocks है वो compared to your core and the mantle, the layer of rocks is very thin. Now one thing important to note is at the depth of 100 to 400 kilometer, the mantle is partially molten. तो जो ये mantle है वो इस depth पे 100 to 400 किलोमीटर पे partially molten होता है, जिसको कहते हैं asthenosphere, right? So this can be asked as one word answer or fill in the blanks. You should be aware of this, that at a depth of 100 to 400 किलोमीटर the mantle is partially molten, पिघला हुआ है but partially, और उसको asthenosphere कहते हैं. Now we'll learn the two important concepts, that is Gutenberg discontinuity and Moho discontinuity. First we'll get to know what actually it is. As you can see from the diagram, core, mantle, and then the crust, right? This is the blanket of gases, atmosphere. This is the hydrosphere. Now this point, as you can see, is the Gutenberg discontinuity, and the outer layer of mantle, or the outer point, you can say, at the mantle is the Mohorovic discontinuity. Now we'll learn what actually it is. Now Gutenberg discontinuity is the boundary between the mantle and the core. As you can see, this is the core and this is the mantle. So इनके बीच की जो ये boundary है वो Gutenberg discontinuity है. यहाँ पर जो seismic waves आते हैं, seismic waves, you must be aware of this, but I'll also give you a brief intro. Seismic waves are created by the earthquakes, right? So seismic waves जो आते हैं यहाँ पे primary waves तो they decrease in velocity and the secondary waves they totally disappear. It is also called, this Gutenberg discontinuity is also called mantle core interface because it is present at the boundary between the core and the mantle. It begins at a depth of 2800 km and it is dense, probably due to greater percentage of iron. So here the percentage of iron is very much, that is why it is dense. Next is Mohorovic discontinuity. Now, this is the boundary between the crust and the mantle. So, as you can see here, this is the crust and this is the mantle. So, between the crust and the mantle is the Moho discontinuity. Maybe it arises in your mind why the name goes like this. So simply it is known as Moho discontinuity because it was discovered by a Yugoslavian scientist Andrija Mohorovičić in 1909. So it has been named after the discoverer. It has the characteristic of both the upper layer crust and the bottom layer mantle, since it is the boundary between the crust and the mantle. So it has the characteristic of both the crust and the mantle, and it is found 8 kilometer beneath the ocean and 32 kilometer beneath the continents. Right? So today we learn what is the earth structure, what are the layers that are there in the earth structure, then the two most important concept, Gutenberg discontinuity and Moho discontinuity. I'll come up with the next video in which I'll be talking on rocks. Till then, bye bye. But before that, a very important thing that I want to discuss with you is that please hit the like button, subscribe it, and share it amongst your friends. Thank you.